Welcome back, everyone, to R2Kast number 41. Slightly different background here. I am home at my mum and dad's helping to lamb. Away from the flat for a week or so, and have another excellent podcast to film today. And I'm going to be at my depth somewhat because our guest today, Emma, is a bit of a podcast expert. She's not a bit of, she is a podcast expert. But Emma, would you like to say hello?
Hello, Wallace. Thank you for having me on.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Before we get on into another excellent episode of the R2Kast, I would just like to thank the sponsor for the show today, The Scottish Farmer, a weekly magazine highlighting everything you need to know regarding the Scottish agricultural industry, whether it's breaking news, events happening in the sector, market reports, classified ads, or just wholesome stories happening in the industry. The Scottish Farmer's got it for you. We've been trying to arrange this for, 6 months.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like, oh, I'll do it when I'm less busy. And then it's like something happens and then, I'm just not busy, not busy. So yeah, we've got it in the end.
It's, we've either I was busy or something, but it's fine. We've got it now and very much looking forward to it. You probably noticed when Emma was speaking there, she's got a Rode mic there. She had fancy headphones. She's got all the stuff. She was 2 or 3 minutes late because there was a sound check needed done, which I turn my iPad on and hope it works. That's the extent of that. But enough of my inability to podcast. We are now on number 41 and have done it the exact same for every single one. So I should probably look at updating it. We'll get there. There's lots of other people out there that can get us up to 100 and I've got more time to do so. But Emma, could you tell us a bit about yourself, a bit of your background, because it's not from farming. So could you tell us where you started out?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose going back to radio, really. So yeah, I worked before I settled by myself 10 years ago as a podcast producer. I worked for a large independent production company based in the northwest of England. And I had the opportunity to work with some huge names and work on all the BBC national network shows. I did a bit of TV as well. Definitely prefer audio though. Especially coming here today, I had to put a bit of makeup on and wash my face. You don't have to do that on radio. it's fine. So, but no, it was great. But I felt like I wasn't going to grow in that business. And I wasn't making that much money really, because they know how competitive it is. It's a bit like farming, in some areas it's so competitive. They know you're going to stay in that role and they don't pay you anymore. So, I decided to settle by myself. So on the side, I started editing podcasts for clients based in America and Canada. And I eventually built up enough of a client base where I could walk away from my my BBC job, essentially. So I was doing that for 10 years. I was really making a lot of momentum, really. The BBC actually were one of my clients in the end, which was fantastic. Got to work with some large corporates as well. And I got to travel all over the world to talk about podcasting. One of the best memories I have is going to Las Vegas and talking at the Adobe Theatre about storytelling, audio storytelling for podcasts, because my passion is telling stories and documentary, I guess. So, but I remember being there and there was a guy he edited most of Star Wars, right? So he was huge, and there were people like that, and they said to me, so what do you do? And I'm like, I make some podcasts and I'm from Manchester. So things had got pretty big and they were really picking up. So much so that I could afford to buy a small Houlton in the northwest, which I'd always wanted. I've got a couple of horses, always loved the countryside and all that. So bought this small Houlton, only a couple of acres, nothing huge. So that was in 2019 in December. Then in March 2020, we all know what happened.
We do indeed.
Yeah. So, clients put work back, they cancelled work, everything went remote, so all the budgets were cut, or people just didn't want to do anything. They were all terrified. I mean, it was terrifying, wasn't it, those first few weeks? So I thought, right, well, I've just got this massive mortgage on this small holding. what am I going to do to make money? So I was looking at my options, and it was either go to Tesco or something like that, or a supermarket. There are other supermarkets out there, just with a BBC head on there. So it's working at a supermarket, going to work at a supermarket, or which I didn't want to be near people. We didn't really know what was going to happen at the time with that. Working remotely as an admin assistant, I'd done that like quite a few years ago, but so many people were after those jobs that had already been doing it. I thought, no chance. And then I was just sat there, and I could see all the bills racking up, and I could see I got all this tax to pay, and I thought, flipping it, come on, just give me a break. I was literally going, come on, give me a break. And I looked at my screen, and on Facebook, on one of the farming publications, I think it was either Farmers Weekly or Farming UK, had an article saying how due to the Brexit, due to the pandemic, there was a shortage of foreign labour coming in for, in particular, the horticultural sector, but all across agriculture. And they were looking for people really to do the modern day sort of land girl, come on, let's all get involved. We're all kind of stuck here. Let's pick some food. So I thought, well, I like the outdoors. I spent time on my best friend's farm when I was a kid. In fact, I spent a lot of time there. So I'm from East Yorkshire originally, and it's very arable around there. So she had a mixed enterprise, and my mum used to just drop me off there pretty much every day and be like, off you go. And so I'd be there. I think she got like 2,000 acres or something on that holding. So yeah, I used to go around there. So I'd always like that side. So I thought, it'll be fun. So I got there, I think it was the 25th of March. So the 23rd was obviously lockdown. Had to be there for 7, and it was in Preston. And that was an hour away from me, because there was nowhere near me that really did horticulture, and they were all beef or family farms. They didn't really need anyone, and they didn't really want to let anyone on the farms either at that time. So I had to look quite far away for a job. And yeah, I just got there. They put me on a tractor. I've never been on a tractor before. Put me in this field, which had kale in it. And they said, right, we're going to harvest this. And I'm like, well, how do we do that? And they just handed me this machete and said, you cut it. And I'm like, what? And I don't know, I just fell in love with it, because it was just, I think the physical aspect, being outside, and it's a bit monotonous after a while, and it gives you that time to really think. So over that time, I got a lot fitter. I made friends with a lot of other people as well that were in the same position. There were a lot of company directors that were on furlough. There was a dancer that had come back from Mallorca. She'd been re-expatriated. There were loads of people from different backgrounds that had all come to make a bit of extra cash. And it was just a great experience. And, to be honest, I didn't think I'd still be here now doing it. But yeah, that's my story up to there, really.
I mean, the fact that you are still here is probably why the story's so interesting. Just you mentioned the Farmers Weekly, which where you saw the advert as a podcast that is sponsored by the Scottish Farmer. There is, like you said, other farming magazines out there as well. Yeah,
of course. Scottish Farmer, whoop whoop.
Do my job. You seen this, Ken Fletcher? Perfect. That's the guy at the Scottish Farmer, by the way, if you wondered. So, edited. One thing that I really honed in on there was you met a guy that had edited all of the majority of Star Wars. I've barely got the patience to watch all of Star Wars, to be honest. Never mind to edit it. So you're really in with the stars, really, at that point.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm looking to go back a wee bit, even further over there. You got into media in general, so it was Radio 4 you were with, wasn't it, for the BBC? Was that something you wanted to do at school, or did you fall into it?
No, I guess like going further back. So I, like many people, had no idea what I wanted to do at school, really. But I always loved music. But it was something that it was like, well, it's not really a career choice to do. So when it came to my A-levels, my teacher said I was good at not arguing. Debating. Debating. I was good at arguing with people, good at debating. And they said, you should try doing politics. studying that and law, you might like it. Which I did. I quite enjoyed it. So I got an unconditional offer to study law at Aberystwyth University in Wales. And I took a year out and I worked for Humberside Police in their tape library. So I listened to interview tapes, which was quite a cool job for an 18-year-old to do. But we also shared the room with evidence, and also had to do edits of child protection tapes. And at the time, so the audio tapes, you'd listen to the beginning and then the end, and then just sort of press a button and it would just copy it all. And you could be quite nosy, and like listen through to a little bit more and this kind of thing. If Humberside Police are watching this, I'm very sorry. Do not lock me up. But yeah, yeah. So it's got quite interesting. But the child protection ones, you had to watch them in real time, and that was quite tough. And also you had to see some of these people eye to eye that had been accused of whatever it was. And I decided that I wanted to work in criminal law. And I was like, after the year, I was like, I don't want to do this. This is not what I want to do. So just before I think it's like July, August time, I wrote to Aberystwyth University, didn't tell my parents that I'd done that, and said, thank you, but no thank you, I'm not going to be coming. And I got an audition at Hull College, because it's the nearest place, to do music. And I got in, and they put me on their foundation course for 2 years and said, if you really pull your socks up, you can do the 3rd year degree. So I did that. And after that, doing that, my parents supported it a bit more because they could see I was a bit more serious. But then obviously after that, there aren't really any jobs in music, and that's the truth. I was in a band, but obviously that didn't really pay very well. So I worked in retail for many, many years, sort of after that. So I went up to management level. I worked for Pets at Home as a manager for a while. And then I went to Harvey Nichols, which was quite a bit of a change. So that was quite fun. And then that was Harvey Nichols in Leeds. And then I went and moved back to Hull and reformed my band with my friends. And it just so happened that I went on the radio with my band on BBC Radio Humberside, and I was like, you know what? This is quite. I could do this. This is cool. So I spoke to the producer, and at the time it was quite easy to get sort of internships and stuff like that without having to go through all these sort of bits of paperwork and stuff you have to do now. So she had me on helping out a while, and then I started doing hospital radio. So again, I just got a boring office job. And I did my show on a Wednesday morning. And I thought, right, well, I need to study this now. So I saved up all my money and went back to uni, to Bournemouth University, to do an MA in radio production, which was fantastic. And anyone that's watching this that's maybe doesn't want to do farming, but wants to go into media, it's a fantastic university. And we got, a lot of practical skills out of it. And one of the things was Radio 4 came, one of the actual commissioning editors from Radio 4 came. Okay. And ahead of coming, we had to send an idea. And for those of you that don't know about independent radio, if you're an independent production company, there we go. You can't just, like you couldn't just pick up the phone and go, I've got an idea for a documentary, give me 20 grand. Kind of thing. So it's got to be through in a pre-production company, and they have so many rounds a year where you go and pitch for certain things. And she was in charge of one of these certain documentary rounds. So we had to write it exactly like it was real life. And she turned up, and obviously we're all these little students here, and she's like right up here. And she was so horrible to some people. I mean, she told them like a new bumhole. Like she was. Yeah, she was really, really harsh. Like one of my friends was pretty much in tears. And I thought, please don't, like when you get to mine, don't be horrible. And basically, I'm really into mod culture and mod music because my dad brought me up on that. He was really into the mod era. And the band The Who, there was an interesting story about Keith Moon had collapsed at the drum kit because he'd had too many drugs and booze, as he used to do, and basically a kid got out of the crowd and filled in for him at this massive show. And I thought, wouldn't that be a great documentary to find this guy and interview him? So that was the idea. So and it was called Who's Drummer was my idea. And she said, who's drummer? Whose idea is that? And I'm like, me? she said, well, I had to look this up on our system. It's called Proteus. Proteus, our system, because I can't believe we have not commissioned this yet. And I'm like, no way. So to someone just leaving uni, I'd got a 20 grand idea that I could go to every production company with. So basically that's how I got my job. I got this idea and it didn't get commissioned the first time. It took 2 rounds, but it did get commissioned in the end. So yeah.
That sounds so intense. I mean, if someone asked me a question in an interview, I cry. Never mind. Proper tearing people a new one. The child protection side must have been quite harrowing, I guess. But the general police tapes. I mean, you're basically just living all of our lockdown Netflix life, really. Whether it's Ted Bundy or whatever, we'd listen to it all. Could you tell us a bit about the band? I mean, see all the stuff you were saying about music and Keith Moon. I don't know what any of this means.
Oh right, okay, right. So you know who Keith Moon is, though, right?
I do not.
Wow. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Should I? Is that
I'm
bad?
showing my age, I guess now, really, but yeah. So do you know the Rolling Stones?
So this is the thing. I've heard of them, and that is it. I couldn't tell you one song.
Yeah, you need some education. Yeah, so they're a huge rock band of the time. Were the Who, in the 60s and 70s, and I actually got to meet 2 of them through my job, and which was amazing. But but my band, so my first band, was called JSMG. Which was Jesus Stole My Girlfriend, was the name of the band, because our drummer was a lesbian and her girlfriend was a Mormon, and so she used to say that Jesus had literally stolen her girlfriend. So, that was where that came from. But they were just all my mates from Hull, knocking about. We used to have a right laugh. And then I was a bit more serious into it. And I answered an advert to a guy in Manchester called David Fatala, and we set up a band called Fatala. So I think it means say something in Samoan, because he was Samoan, New Zealand. And so I played synthesizer. So there I am with my grade 8 classical piano, reduced to playing a synthesizer in a band. But no, it was great, and we got to go on tour. We went on 2 tours. We got played on Radio 1. We did a few sessions on BBC, stuff like that. So it was good, but it was never going to pay the bills. And it's great doing the shows, but all the build up to it and all the doing all the rehearsals and lugging all your gear everywhere, and it's definitely a young man's game, big time.
And it's sad to hear that, though. I mean, you were on Radio 1. It's the second biggest radio station in the country. Radio 2 is the biggest, isn't it?
Radio 2 is the biggest, yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly the one I always listen to. It's a pretty notable station. You're on there, and that still can't pay the bills. I mean, the whole art is work movement is required. It's sad that it's in that place. And you said to me, I'm probably too young to know this. Honestly, I'm just very uneducated on the music side of things. If it's not completely electrical, I don't want to listen to it. It's pretty much pretty much how my music taste go. But I kind of wish I had a surname like Fatala. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, my surname is basically a spicy food. There's not really much to it. But you started a company 10 years ago, did you say, Emma?
10 years ago, yeah.
I've forgotten. Art of Podcast? No.
Art of Podcast, yeah. And initially it was called We Produce, because I really didn't know what I'd be producing. So I thought I'd just keep it open-ended. But like I say, I'd literally work all day and then go home and do that as a side gig, and then built it up. And they were very, very surprised when I handed my notice in at work. And my boss took me to one side and he's like, has anyone pissed you off? I went, yeah, you have. Yeah. So no, I was very glad to be away from there. And again, it's that whole, you're talking about being on BBC Radio 1, and that must be great, but it's almost like you see it and then the reality of it, it's actually not that all it is.
Oh, really?
It's not all that. The side with working in a big production company or whatever, you're expected to work 15, 16, 17 hours a day if you're on location, then be drinking with everyone, and smoozing with everyone, and then you're up again, and it's just knackering. I don't know if you saw the documentary about Jeremy. What's his name? Jeremy Kyle. Diana said Jeremy Clarkson. Jeremy Kyle. All the production team were talking about that, and it really resonates with me that's the kind of lifestyle it was. And I've got to say, I prefer farming over a career in media. Absolutely.
we've stole you from the media industry. I didn't see that, Jeremy. I watched nothing ever, to be honest. But the Jeremy Kyle in general, I always felt was built on a pretty negative premise. It was kind of. But you said about Radio 1 not being all it's cracked up to be. Please don't ruin Clara Amfo for me. She's the best person ever. I hope. But you're in podcasting. The reason I sort of put the 10 years ago thing in there is, and maybe this is just me, podcasting to me doesn't feel like it was a thing 10 years ago. It wasn't a word we used often. Were you quite ahead of the game, or am I just very behind?
No, I was really ahead of the game, and that is why, because it was a thing in America 10 years ago. And so that's why all my clients were Canadian and American, because they were the only ones that really did it. Trying to sell it to anyone in the UK, they were like, oh, that's just like a little bit of online radio, isn't it? And there was no real sort of, uptake with it. So, I think my first UK client wasn't until probably 5 years ago. Actually.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Any farming podcasting clients?
No farming podcasting clients, but I did speak on a panel with the guy who presents the Farmers Weekly. Oh, maybe not presents, produces the Farmers Weekly podcast. So there we go.
Hugh Broom and Johan Tucker are the presenters.
Yeah.
But was it someone behind the scenes?
Russell is called. That's his name, Russell.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the only time I'd seen podcasts before they came on Spotify and stuff like that was on GarageBand.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The Setting on GarageBand podcast.
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's probably the only time I'd ever seen the word before then. I don't think it really appeared. But this is a food and farming podcast, and I've been so excited talking about the media because I know literally nothing about it.
I know, sorry everyone if you've tuned in to listen about farming, it's a media podcast now.
Not at all. It's the people in food and farming. That's what it's about. So it's their story. But you mentioned you got into farming. COVID was what would we say? Well, I say COVID was as if we're still not in it. We're still in it at the minute. It was a dreadful time. And that first couple of weeks you talked about was strange. London was empty. That takes a lot. No one really knew what to do. So you found a new job, and it was with a machete, which you probably didn't expect. Met a lot of different people. How long were you there for, though, Emma?
Well, I'm still there now.
Perfect.
But the home farm is in Preston, which is where I started at originally. But they grow the majority of their produce in Wales. So where I was, my small holding is in Saddleworth. So geographically, I was an hour away from the site in Wales and an hour away from the site in Preston. Preston's more greenhouse work. It's more packing and stuff like that. And it turned out that actually I'm a terrible packer. I'm so slow, like I'm embarrassingly slow. So I think they were keen to get me out of the back house, to be honest.
You don't shop in Aldi then?
No, but I'm really fast at Aldi because of this job. Yeah, I've got to say, like I was saying this only the other day, I'm there at the checkouts, even putting them on. And there were like two things at once, and this guy was like, whoa, calm down. You're trying to get a job here, I think he says. But because you're so used to the fast face of it, because it is fast.
Yeah.
The pack house wasn't for me, because, I remember Paul saying to me on the phone when I had my interview. So I basically went around all the farms, or looked on the websites, and emailed everyone or rung everyone, because obviously I didn't want to go on site because I was worried about them, whether they want me there or whatever. But as you know, with farming, it is all about the eyeball to eyeball, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
But anyway, I'd emailed this farm, and Paul rung me, and he said to me, "Oh, it all sounds very good, Emma, but come down and have a go, because it's a practical job." But he said, there's so many different things on the farm. There's always something you'll be strongest at, that you'll want to focus on. So they tend to obviously put people in the strongest areas, because, well, obviously it helps output, doesn't it? More than anything, but
Makes
also
sense.
it encourages people, if they're doing something they enjoy. So I really enjoyed the harvesting, actually being outside with the machete. I think I'd only been there a week, and Paul put me on the tractor. We were in the field just near like the main farm, and he said, "Right, this is forward. This is how you go back." Jumped off it, and he went, "I'm really busy. I've got to go. So just don't crash it. See you later. Bye." I was like, "What?" I think he said, actually, make sure you don't do a 3-point turn like Austin Powers, otherwise you'll get stuck. So, I'd never driven a tractor before. In fact, just being in an automatic vehicle terrified me. So, but now I'm one of their main tractor drivers, and I absolutely love it. So, in Wales, it's cutting, harvesting, leading the teams, helping to coordinate, and driving the tractor, whether that's land work or loading. So it just suited me so much better. So and then I moved to Wales a month ago.
So, and we'll get into that. How much of the, if that's not the right word, no, it is, how much of the year are you on a tractor then?
How much a year am I on a tractor?
Like, is it 3/4 of the year, or?
I mean, I'm in a tractor every day.
Okay, so through the winter,
I would say. So how we harvest is that we have a tractor on crawl, and we have, the potato boxes, and people will cut in front and throw in, and then I drive the tractor and move it around and load and that kind of thing. So I guess every day I'm in work, I'm in a tractor. So
no, it maybe sound like a stupid question, but I didn't know if it was like just and how this is. I'm going to embarrass myself here because food-wise, I'm okay, but veg, I'm not great at. I eat vegetables. It sounds like I'm trying to tell my mum that I've eaten everything. I just don't know much about the production side of it. It's interesting. But how does the drilling work? Is it just is it still, that's not going to be man done now? That's going to be synthetic, surely. Is it,
right,
you're using a drill? You are using an actual drill?
We don't use a drill, no. We don't use a drill.
Okay.
No. So we now have an automatic planter, it's called. So the process, I guess, really starts back in Preston. So we have a seeder, so it goes through a machine and it seeds it, and then we raise our own plants. We've got, I think, 3 acres of greenhouses, I think it is, that we've got. So not only do we raise for clients, we also raise all of our own stuff. So we harvest about 200 acres of cabbage and kale a year. So we raise enough for that. And then once it's ready to go, we take it to Wales, and then we plant it. So before, we'd have this planter where you'd have a number of people sat on the back, and it's a disc that goes around, and they pop the plants in, and then it plants them into the ground. But man, it would take so long, just like with a couple of people or whatever on the back. So now this automatic planter is only Paul and me, or me and another person. So you've got driver and someone else, and it's essentially 16 sets of hands going like this, like really fast, planting it down. So we can get, it's double the amount of plants in the ground a day. So
brilliant.
It's really good. So
I'm glad we did by that embarrassing question.
No, it's okay. No, everyone says that, and the most embarrassing question I've actually had is the other day. So due to my move in Wales, I decided to see if there were any dairy farms looking for relief milk, because I quite enjoy that. And there was a guy with a rotary, was looking for someone down the road, and he asked me, "So how do you harvest your cabbages? Do you use scissors?" Yeah, Yeah, we use little nail scissors.
Every single one. Exactly. Oh dear. I just quickly feel like I should probably explain to everyone that's watching on YouTube. You might notice I'm in a bit of a pink room now. It is getting darker, and we have a sort of UV light growing chilies, and the light isn't working in here. So I don't know why it suddenly went so pink, but that is the reason for that. Those of you
nice.
listening, it's quite ambient, isn't it? Yeah, no, it suits me. Not at all. How much? What weight of cabbages do you get per acre?
Oh, no, do you know, you're asking me like
Is
that.
that
Well,
maybe
it
it doesn't
really,
work? Maybe you don't do it that way.
no, it's kind of like it really depends on the variety. So we've got a couple of varieties at the moment there. One's a much lighter cabbage and the other, it depends on the size. So I guess it's like yield, really.
Yeah.
So for example, in the winter, so we harvest all year round. So if it's snowing or icy, we're
That's
still
why
out
I was
there.
confused about the tractor question. I apologise. Got you now.
Right, yeah,
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 got you
yeah.
now.
Yeah, and it's fun when it gets stuck in the mud, I can tell you, in
Can
winter.
imagine.
Yeah, so they're much smaller because they kind of go to sleep essentially, don't they? So they're much smaller. So you can be going right the way up the field and only fill in a couple of bins. But in the summer, you barely step in a few feet and then you filled the bins.
Yeah.
So it really depends on what time of year and the size of cabbage, I would say, really.
I would never have expected that answer. I just look like such an idiot
No,
now. Now, the person that
no.
asked about the scissors probably wasn't an agricultural lecturer, so that's why I'm embarrassing myself. But we
Well,
don't need to
there we
broadcast it.
go.
Exactly.
But with the kale though, and I'm sure my boss would probably correct me, but I'm sure it's something like £1,000 an acre you can get, a grand or two an acre. Like it's really,
Right.
really good.
Yeah.
The kale.
And
Yeah.
and you're how are we putting this? Yeah, you're harvesting all year round, but how often can one patch of ground be harvested? Yes, I've said that correctly.
Right, okay. Now I'm doing the maths here. So it's like potatoes is 1 in 4, I think.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think it's 1 in 4 on the rotation. I think we can get away with twice on the same patch.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And that
That's
is
what.
the biggest problem there club root or avoiding club root or not?
The biggest problem for us is pigeons,
Oh
actually.
really?
Yeah, pigeons
Right,
are
okay.
a big problem. So yeah, we especially this time of year when they haven't got a lot of food,
Yeah.
they can decimate. Like, and I'm not even joking. They can decimate a 50-acre field, like every single one gone. Which is just, and you can't really justify netting 50 acres. It's a lot of money.
It would
So
be a nightmare that would.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
bad. It's bad enough. So now we're just planting our new season, and it'll go under fleece. And do you know, I hate that job so much. I try and get out of it. I try and do the planting while other people are digging the bags of soil to put on and put the
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that has to go under fleece, and that's bad enough. And that's only like, I don't know, a couple of acres. It's not much. But then we've got the problem of kids will come on the field. Like some people have had it set on fire.
Oh jeez.
It's just hideous. So as much as you can try and keep away from that, the better. So yeah, there's that's a problem. It's like a black spot fungus as well. That's sometimes I think we had a crop not so long ago, and it's like it had come over from something else,
Right.
like fodder beet or something like that, or some kind of root
Yeah.
vegetable, some kind of disease. So I guess disease like that is an issue. But yeah, no, pigeons is a big one.
And we're filming this at the end of March. It's not out until May time. Let's hope. I don't think it will be, but let's hope fertilizer's a bit
Yeah.
cheaper than it is now. Are you putting a lot of fertilizers and pesticides on your crops?
Well, actually, what we do is we strip till, so we don't apply all that much fertilizer. So that's actually, I mean, obviously, first hitting everyone, but we don't put loads and loads on. It's not like, say,
Yeah.
potatoes where you need tons of it. We try and be as precise as possible and strip till instead.
Brilliant. Very good. I hope you've kicked your feet up and got comfy and enjoying another fantastic episode of the R2Kast with another really interesting guest. I would just like to quickly take another second to plug the sponsors of the show today, the Scottish Farmer, and I would strongly advise you to go out and pick one up this week and see even more of the fantastic people that are in our industry. The reason I originally heard about you was, first off, the best name on Instagram. Could you tell us a bit about your name? I won't ruin it, and why that came about. I mean, it makes sense for obvious reasons, but
so it's Princess Cabbage, and it's a number of reasons, really. First of all, it's because I was going around with my machete going, off with their heads, like one day, and taking the mickey. But then I kept dropping cabbages one day, and Paul kept going, all right, princess. Like, I was like, pick that up, like taking the mickey out of him. So yeah, they think I'm a bit of a princess at work, so they call me Princess Cabbage. So
honestly, the best. And if you want to follow Emma's story, just follow on Instagram. There's a lot of stories about, well, you've just moved to Wales, and it looked like, I think we were supposed to do a podcast and there was an issue with a shed in that storm a few weeks ago. Is everything fixed, or is it still just a bit of an issue?
It's still probably another week to go, because we're trying to build it when we're off kind of on a Saturday, Sunday, or well, a Sunday really. But I mean, we didn't think it was gonna happen. I'd basically spent $4,000 on this stable, and a week later it was in a tree. That was nuts. I just remember, so there'd been that storm a few days before Eunice. I can't remember the name of it because there's so many. And I'd been told this one was going to be worse. And I'd gone home and I'd seen it had moved just a little bit like that back. And so I'm there with ratchet straps trying to ratchet it after a day of cutting cabbage to a big tree. And Paul rung me and he said, "Are you all right?" And I was like, "It's going to go. My stable's going to go." So he came down and he helped, and he battened it down. I mean, fully battened it down with this steel. And we were like, right, no, it's going to be okay. So I went out that day in the wind. It was awful because I'm right on the coast of North Wales. So I was up kind of by Rhyl. And I was driving past these solar panels and a big solar farm, and they were like this, and I'm thinking, please don't come off onto my car. So then I went to the supermarket, and then I got a phone call from my neighbour. And she said, now I would want someone to tell me before I came home what's happened. So that's why I'm ringing you. She said, "I'm really sorry, mate. Your stable's in a tree." Oh, it was just so bad because we were supposed to move the horses over like the week after.
Yeah.
So they're still in Greater Manchester, costing me a fortune having someone look after them. But yeah. I've learned an awful lot about how to build sheds now.
It might be costing you a fortune, but at least they weren't in that.
Yeah. Dear, can you imagine? Yeah.
It's never good when someone starts it with, I would want someone to tell me. Like, no. Hurry up! Either tell me right now or never say it again. I spent quite a bit of time in Llangollen. Are you quite near there?
Oh yeah, not far from there. Yeah. So like a bit sort of across and up a bit. So I'm in a place called Llansannan. Well, I'm between Llanfytch and Llansannan.
I have heard the first one.
Llansannan, yeah. It's about 15 minutes from Abergele.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say it's a lot. There's a lot of farms around here, and I'm actually on a farming estate, which is really nice. I'm kind of amongst it, so it's lovely.
No, it's a really nice area. And you, well, I tell you what, we've just been saying Welsh words that are hard to say. I can say this one because my ex went to uni here as well. But you went to Aberystwyth. You originally had a place, and then you ended up going for, is it bioinnovation?
Yeah. So I'm back at Aberystwyth.
Yes, the full circle. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So obviously, I guess I have quite a few goals now. So I've been doing this farming game for 2 years, just working in the horticultural side. But I guess for more my other business angles, media, tech angles, because I work with a lot of tech companies as well, doing the podcasting and stuff. I've learned an awful lot from that side. And working the veg side as well, you learn a heck of a lot about efficiency and precision. And so I'm really interested in precision technology and precision farming. And, you know, I guess my goal is that I would love to have my own, like whether it's a share farming agreement or FBT, doing some horticulture, but I'm really keen to do something like calf rearing in a system, maybe something like contract calf rearing. But I just know the devil's in the detail, the devil's in the data with something like that. And so, like I say, I've been really keen to learn. So bioinnovation, it's MSc Bioinnovation at Aberystwyth University, is for people that either live or work in Wales. And up until us fully coming out of the EU, the modules are free, which is incredible. Like working towards a master's degree and it's free. So my last module that I did was free, which I still can't believe. I think it's the last one though. I'm going to have to pay for the others. But it was absolutely fascinating. And I can honestly say I didn't know much about livestock farming. And then suddenly I'm doing like lamb weight reports and trying to find out like what's wrong with the lambs and all of this kind of stuff. But being shown different things, you know, like how grazing's managed now, like different forms of mob grazing using technology, trying to diagnose what's wrong with cows, for example, before it gets too bad, sending consistent cattle to market as well, consistent body condition scores using technology, all that kind of stuff. I just, totally my bag. Absolutely love it. So
is just on the body condition one there, is that looking at video image analysis, or is that
it's using thermal imaging? And the way that these companies were looking at it were having it on a water trough, so it's non-invasive, so you could be measuring that like 2, 3, 4 times a day, whatever, however many times they're going to the water. So, you know, I think that's really good, to be honest.
That anti-mortem image analysis confuses the hell out of me. I'm like, how did he do that? It's so cool. But the food trough thing makes a lot of sense, actually. Because the thought in my head was always, how do you know everything's going to pass there? You don't, but you definitely do with a water trough. I've learned something new today. I've learned a lot of things.
Well, there you go. And funnily enough, when I was at the British Farming Awards, I was sat next to Terry Canning, who's the CEO of Cattle Eye, and they won gold actually for innovation, which was amazing. And I'd never heard of them, and I didn't realize how great they were and stuff. And so I was speaking to him about it, and I was telling him all what I'd studied. I bet he was like, "Oh, yeah." But it was like, that technology is fantastic. Looking at lame cows, and it's the same sort of thing. They've got to pass there. Every time they're going to milking, they've got to pass there. So I just think there's so much that can be done. And I was at a Farming Connect, which is again, it's an initiative for the farming community in Wales. Again, it's funded by the European Union, but I think they'll be doing something once that's finished. So it's for new entrants, people working in agriculture, and farmers that are farming already, to get funding to go on training courses or whatever. So I was very lucky and went on the boot camp. It was a 2-day residential boot camp, all paid for, free, fantastic people coming to speak. And again, I was getting to learn about people's gripes and different pieces of technology. And but their kind of argument was, it's too much data, too much technology, but then others were saying it's so important that you get a grip of your body condition score, because that could mean the difference between you surviving and thriving. So I was a little bit like, I argue there isn't too much data. You just need to know how to analyze it.
And maybe even more importantly, instead of surviving or thriving, surviving or not surviving.
Exactly. Because I didn't know that if you send a cow that's too fat away, you get fined or something, do you? Or is
there a fine? I think it's more, it just won't be as much per kilo because of it. I don't know if it's a strict fine. I certainly not in Scotland.
Right.
I couldn't comment on Wales in fairness, but I think efficiency, and especially going into a post-Brexit world, whatever that means, is worrying. I mean, we're going to have some kind of subsidy until I think at the minute it's 2028.
Yeah.
Now it's half and half and half and every time, but I don't know. And I agree with you on that there can't be too much data. Now, handling and gathering that data, maybe you use an external to do that. But I don't think there can ever be too much data.
No.
I guess the only thing in my head there is the sort of argument against the freedom of being able to express natural behaviour. Is there any naturalness to a completely data-driven animal? I don't know.
Well, there is that argument that there's that traditional farmer-animal relationship would potentially diminish, but I don't know. I mean, I think the animal's going to be happier if you can see if it's likely to be sick or whatever. I don't know. So there's
there's arguments to both sides, but I think data's got to find its way in now. The difference now between, for example, the 60s was you're working with more animals. It's hard for you to associate with every single animal as anything more than a number. Yes, there's a connection, of course there is, but there's just got to be data there. Precision ag's really interesting. And is there any precision ag being implemented at the cabbage side of things, cabbage and kale side of things?
Yeah, I mean, so the veg people and I suppose the arable people kind of go like to the livestock people. Well, we've been doing this for years, mate. Because I guess they haven't had the same subsidies and stuff like that, so they've had to learn to be efficient and precise. And the way we are, I know it sounds so stupid and so basic, but when we put our bins out in front of all the cabbage, every step that person's taking in between the bins is wasting us time. It's costing us money.
Yeah.
And it's those little minute details that mean we are more efficient. But in terms of precision, I guess we've obviously got the GPS and strip tilling and applying stuff precisely. We've also automated a lot of the packing line as well. So again, that can be measured. So I think it's probably easier on the veg side to measure and arable than livestock, I would say.
It is, yeah, it is. I mean, what is it they say? Never work with children or animals. Like it is, there is that.
Or tractors. Never work with tractors.
I back you up on that one. I've embarrassed myself too many times. Precision ag in general is huge. I mean, I think the animal side that I had any connection to, I guess I wouldn't say we run any precision ag at home, was rumen monitoring boluses, looking at temperature and pH changes in the rumen to look at disease and estrus, that sort of thing, but it's mad what can be done. It's not just a sheep anymore or a cabbage anymore, it's everything. You mentioned the farming awards. First off, massive congratulations. How did that come about? By any chance, was there a guy there called Will Rubottom?
Yeah, I spoke to him actually. Yeah. I follow him on Instagram. Yeah,
no, Will's a good guy. Quite. I've never met him, but got quite good mates with him through this whole online stuff. But the farming awards. Did someone nominate you? Is that how it works?
No, so I told them at the farm about this award, and I was like,
right.
Do you think you're going to nominate me? They were like, yeah. But actually, it's a really convoluted way. You've got to write essays and essays. They ask loads of questions, and it takes quite a lot of time. It's not like I nominate Emma and then an email address or whatever, like a lot of the other awards. It's literally a full application. And then they choose someone, and then you're interviewed in front of a panel of experts. So it's which is great because it's not like, oh, how many likes have I got? It is literally they decide. But it's quite a barrier for someone who's a really busy flipping farmer to do an entry. So I think it got to the day before the deadline, and I was like, oh, stuff it. I'm just going to do it. Like I was like, thanks for the nomination, guys. I'll just do it myself then. So no, I ended up nominating myself, which is but anyway. But they were behind me, they were backing me up, and they were like, they really wanted me to win. So
and what was the night like?
Oh,
Some pretty big names there.
it was very surreal for me because I've worked with Vernon Kay and I've worked with Jeremy Clarkson.
Of course.
So it was like being at a works do in media, but it was all farmers there. So yeah, no, it was great. But when when I saw my table number, I was like right at the back, and I've worked at award ceremonies. Now I'm going right. Well, I've clearly lost because they're not going to put someone right at the back, are they? And like, so Terry Canning was sat next to me from Carlisle, like I said. And Paul's going, shut up, stop being so negative. Like in front of Terry, I'm like, we've lost, mate, we've lost. Just let's forget it. Let's have... And then he was before me. Gold goes to Terry Canning. And I was like, and Paul went, well, that bango's your theory there. So I just didn't know what was going to happen when it got to my category. And I was so... I couldn't believe it. I actually couldn't believe it when Vernon Kay read my name out.
Yeah.
Just because I still feel like a fake now and a phony because I've only been doing it 2 years. And I actually got messages from people going, I had to wait 25 years to get my award and all this, and you've only been doing it 2 years. But it just really solidified like all that hard work and all that pain because it was painful during COVID. It really made it all worthwhile. And I'd also, do you know the Chief Shepherdess on
Zoe Colville?
Yeah, and there was Shepherd Evs and Rainbow Farmer there, so I all knew them. So we got to meet up there, which was really nice. I didn't go up to Jeremy actually because he was being mobbed by people, and obviously we're taught not to approach celebrities anyway in the BBC.
Yeah.
All fangirly, so I didn't approach him, but it was just and I was just on an absolute high for days. I just kept looking at the award going, wow, yeah, no
yeah,
way.
but you're saying like you feel like a phony. I mean, it's not. It's the award isn't for who has worked in farming the longest. That's not
no.
So don't put yourself down on that. I think it's great, and Zoe's another great example of like yourself, someone that's came not from farming at all. I mean, I think Zoe was a hairdresser from my understanding.
Zoe was a hairdresser. Yeah.
And that transition into farming, and I think that in itself is brilliant. I mean, it's not an easy industry to get into at all. No. We all know that, and you for this podcast are proof that it's absolutely doable. So very much well deserved, I would say. But yeah, it would have been quite the spectacle. Maybe less so for yourself because you're used to people like Jeremy Clarkson, but he's definitely a try to get for the podcast. I had one person off Clarkson's farm before, but I think to get Jeremy or Caleb would be a hard one to get.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah. So yeah,
but it's all fun and games, right? Anyway, it's it's been great. We've tried to do this for however many months. It's been great to finally actually sit down and have a chat and hear your story from not farming into farming, which has been great. Do you have any things that I haven't picked up on that you would like to talk to before we have the dreaded 2 questions at the end that I ask everyone?
Dreaded 2 questions on them. No, I don't think I have really, other than and just picking up from what you said about like it's really hard to get into farming, and I guess like I'm really thankful to Farringtons for giving me a chance because I had no background whatsoever, and they could have just, I'm sure, taken someone on with experience, and they took me on, so I'm really thankful for that. But then I get a lot of people that do get in touch with me that say like, have you got a degree in agriculture, and how did you get into it? It doesn't look like you've got a background in it. And I would just say, just as long as you're reliable and you turn up every day and you're willing to do any job and with a smile on your face and a can-do attitude, then you're just going to go really far, whether that's in beef or dairy or what I'm doing or whatever. And there are so many jobs out there. And I mean, I can't talk for all sectors, but in our sector, horticulture, because we know we're stuck with the labour at the moment, it's really well paid for what you do. And I would say to people to really try to think about it and just approach people and just go. Like I say, I've had people saying, well, I've tried, and it's like, well, What did you do? Well, I sent one message to a dairy farmer and didn't get back to me. You got to be a little bit more tenacious than that, but there are so many opportunities. So just get out
It's,
there and do it.
it's interesting to ask if you've got a degree in agriculture. No, but you have a degree in just about everything else.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times you went to uni. You're one of those people, you get the podcast, and I think you're the same age as me, but you've done like 98 things, and I'm like, well, that's not possible. You've fitted it all in, which is insane. You've just stolen one of my questions with what you just said.
Sorry.
Ruined it. You're too used to this lifestyle. One of my questions is if you'd any tips for folk coming into the industry, what would they be? And you've basically just given them one, but probably for you and everyone else that's watching on YouTube, as a podcaster, your tips to me is probably have a room that doesn't change light throughout, but it's what I had to work with. But do you have any other tips for folk coming into farming other than the ones you just said? And the next question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Okay, right. Any further tips? I think it's just like not being afraid to just put yourself out there as well. But it is still a very traditional industry. You've got to go maybe to the farm and see the farmer to get the job or whatever. But like where I'm living now, for example, this was never advertised. There's so many things that aren't advertised out there that are available. And I would never have got this place if I hadn't have put a call out saying that I was looking for somewhere and I work in farming or whatever. So yeah, I think it's just being tenacious with it, but realizing that it's much needed to get into the industry. And not that I want to beat the drum too much about women in agriculture, because
Please do.
But when I first started working at Farrington's, there was only me and one other girl, I think, started. And then because we were on there, other girls started and they stuck it out. And then when they put me on a tractor and saw me whirring around and doing all this stuff with knives, they were like, hang on, like, I want to do that. I've taught some of the girls how to drive tractors and stuff in the field. So sometimes we'll have 2 tractors and we've got to take them up the field. And so I'll put one in a tractor and then I literally reverse all the way up, watching them drive it, just to make sure they're okay. But seeing the joy on their face, because they just see it as a bloke thing, but then they're like, I can do this. This is amazing. I absolutely love that. And there isn't anything that women can't do, and my farm are very much, you are expected to work like a man. I think,
or just work like a person is the way I see it.
Well, no, work like a person, work like a really strong person.
But exactly.
But there was a girl was paired up with me on her first day, and she got one of those Fitbits on, and she'd walked 10 miles and burnt nearly 5,000 calories. It is a very physically demanding job. It's like doing CrossFit for 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours a day.
I need to do that. Lockdown's not been good to me. It's required. Brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's answered your question anyway. But
absolutely.
Just get into it. Don't have any doubts. Just do it.
And where do you think you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Where I would like to see myself in 5 years' time, I guess, is initially I really wanted a farm business tenancy, like I said, and I was shortlisted for one, but unfortunately they gave it to someone else, and I have to drive past that holding every day on the way to where I harvest in Anglesey at the moment, and they've got 7 sheep in the field. That's it. So it really upset me because I had all these big grand ideas of what I was going to do. So I think it was a local they gave it to be honest. But anyway, I'm not bitter. It's fine. But I think because of what I've learned on the venture program on Farming Connect about going into a joint venture with someone, I feel, because I don't necessarily have all of the practical farming experience, not the years and years of farming experience, I think my dream would be to go on board with someone who's been successful, that's wanting to let go. and for me to come on with some fresh ideas and help with the day-to-day running of something. So like my top dreams, I suppose, are working in grassland, creating hay and haylage products for the pet and equine market. So stripping stuff back to meadow, doing it like the old-fashioned sort of pasture way. I've got a 27-year-old horse that has survived that long, I think, because he's on a very good forage-based diet.
Yeah.
So it's something I'm really passionate about, and I think it's, basically people in the equine world will pay any money for it. So that's an area that I'm really keen to look at, and I've started experimenting with barley fodder. I don't know if you know about that.
I've heard about this. I don't know much about it though.
So you just basically grow barley hydroponically for 7 days, and it looks like fresh grass, but it's lower in sugar, and it's got so many phytonutrients in it. It's just fab for, say, calves or cows, sheep, whatever, chickens, everything. So I'm looking at ways to work with that. Potatoes I'd really like to get into. I think it's only because my friend became a millionaire because they grew potatoes. I remember as a child, the first time I ever saw an Audi was because of this amazing potato year for them. Potatoes and yeah, like I said, calf rearing, contract calf rearing is something I'd really like to get into as well. So there's many different avenues that I'm really keen to explore. But like I say, I've got the business side. I just don't have the land, the buildings, and necessarily that agricultural expertise. So I almost feel like if I could just partner up with someone who's established in that area, that would be a dream for me, really.
Yeah, and the passion's certainly there, so I've got no doubt that that will happen. There's going to be, you're going to have lots of different princess names now. Princess Tatty has a certain ring to it.
Princess Tatty is a great idea. I've already got Princess Forage as a handle, because we weren't quite sure whether I was going to talk about the hay or my cabbage stuff. So, but I still think Princess Cabbage is best.
Do you know the barley fodder that there's what's their name? My mum went to college with a couple in Northern Ireland. I'm positive it's Alan Campbell's the guy's name. I've only met him once. But they do that, and they've got like a circuit for horses to do jumping things. Not a horsey person. I think I'm making that clear. So that was the only time I'd heard of that. But it seems like a super crop. It's
a superfood. It is actually a superfood.
Is it?
Yeah, so it's the same as wheatgrass that people put in smoothies and stuff. It's exactly the same, but it's barley. So you can sell it to the human market as well. Even cats, that cat grass, that's usually wheat or barley grass. So it's a really big market. But I would look to potentially make it into some kind of dried thing. I did speak to someone at a college. I went to an open farm Sunday, that's it, isn't it? That
right, okay.
And it was a college in York, and I was speaking to a guy, and he just said, you might come a cropper with the drying process with it. That's the only problem, but it sounds like a great idea. So we will see if I can come up with something. Hopefully no one will steal my idea that I've just said.
That could be your bio-innovation. Patent it now, so no one can steal it. Mentioning the hay to the equine market. That's what Will's home farm is based on. Yeah, that's what they do. Going back about 10 minutes, probably even 15 minutes, you mentioned about showing people reversing with the trailer.
Yeah, reversing with the tractor, yeah.
A little hint for you. Or was it just the tractor without the trailer?
Yeah, so they would drive behind, sort of towards me, and I'm reversing back all the time, making sure that I can see them. Yeah.
Well, this is, and it might be one you've heard, but it's one I heard a few years ago, and it's the best way I've heard to say to someone: if you're reversing with a trailer, whichever side, whichever mirror, it's better than I've said it. Whichever mirror you see your trailer come out on, pull down on that side. That works in my head. Well, I couldn't say it, but it works in my head. And that's the way I normally tell folk that. But Listen, it's been great to chat. We've went down so many different ways today. It's been so exciting. I've been struggling to keep up. I now have a letter that is covered in loads of writing. That is the only way I can ever keep up with these things. But look, if you want to follow Emma, it's Princess Cabbage UK. I think it is on Instagram.
That's
it's UK
the
on
one.
there.
Yeah, believe it or not, someone else had Princess Cabbage already.
Did they actually?
Yeah. I don't know
who. I think you just have to collab. There's got to be a thing there. But yeah, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it. It's been great to chat and sort of finally get the recording done. I'm currently in a completely pink room. But yes, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed yourself.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Wallace. Thank you very much.
But I'm glad. It's been very good. Next week, you might have heard of this person. I'm not sure. Next week we have arguably, some people have said, the world's most famous farmer. Now I don't know how much truth there is to that, but when I said it to him, he disagreed. Joel Salatin. Sort of the Salatins are almost like the fathers of regenerative agriculture in the States. So another interesting podcast coming up then. And I can't actually say what's next because it's currently lambing time. And I've filmed 2 months ahead and I don't want to do any more. So I will start getting back to filming in May time and update you who's coming. So I will see you in a week's time. And thank you very much, Emma.
Thank you very much, Wallace.
Well, that's it. Another R2Kast finished. Another agricultural mind opened up. And I would just like to say that getting these guests on board, it does take time. And it always has done, but I've now went weekly, and with that comes even more time required. And I would just like to finally thank once more the Scottish Farmer for sponsoring the show and making that much more possible. Please be sure to get in touch if you've any ideas of people you'd like to see on the podcast, or maybe ideas you have for me presenting better, because I definitely do require that. See you in the next one.